The year was 1961. Kenya stood on the edge of freedom after decades under British colonial rule. The prisons still held heroes of the liberation struggle, and the hopes of millions hung in the balance. Yet, amid the celebration and anticipation of independence, a quiet test of loyalty was unfolding, one that would define the true meaning of sacrifice in leadership. Jomo Kenyatta, the man who had inspired Kenya's fight for freedom, was still behind bars. The colonial authorities, desperate to control the transition, wanted to bypass him. They turned to another powerful nationalist, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, a man of immense influence and charisma. With Kenyatta locked away, they offered Jaramogi the most powerful position in the land, to become the first prime minister of an independent Kenya. For many, it would have been the ultimate reward, a chance to lead a new nation into freedom. But for Jaramogi, it was a test of conscience. He knew that accepting would mean betraying the very man who had given Kenya its political soul. And so, in a move that stunned both the British and his fellow nationalists, Jaramogi stood tall and declared, "Yet Uhuru. How can I be prime minister when the man who made us fight for our freedom is still in detention? Kenyatta is our leader. There can be no independence without him." Those words, simple yet thunderous, changed the course of history. Jaramogi turned down power, wealth, and glory. In that single act, he gave up the chance to have his name written as the founder of the nation, all for the sake of loyalty and principle. It was not just a political decision, it was an emotional one, born from deep conviction and love for his country. When Jomo Kenyatta was finally released on August 14, 1961, he became Kenya's first prime minister 2 years later, and later its first president. And true to his word, Jaramogi stood beside him as the country's first vice president. But history can be cruel. The two men, who had once shared a dream of freedom, would later grow apart, their friendship fading into rivalry. Jaramogi resigned in protest, his ideals clashing with the reality of power. The very government he had helped create turned against him. He was detained without trial, first by Kenyatta and later by Daniel Arap Moi, for daring to speak against injustice and demand democracy. The man who had refused power for principle became a prisoner in the country he helped liberate. And in a twist of fate, Jaramogi, who had once declared that there could be no independence without Kenyatta, died in 1994 without ever seeing true Uhuru. The word Uhuru, which he had fought so hard for, became both the symbol of Kenya's freedom and the title of his autobiography, Not Yet Uhuru, a haunting reminder that his struggle for justice remained unfinished. Jaramogi Oginga Odinga will forever be remembered as the man who could have been Kenya's first president, but chose instead to stand by a friend, a leader, and a cause greater than himself. If you found this story moving, make sure to subscribe and join us as we uncover more powerful moments from Kenya's political history. And when you're done, don't miss our next story, how Raila Odinga escaped to Norway in 1991. The daring, emotional tale of how Jaramogi's son risked everything to outsmart the Moi regime and keep the dream of democracy alive.